you have to find something to commit to in life. You have to find a path. You have to find a vocation. You have to find a calling. It can be many things, but I think that's why you're so confused. And I think that's why you're so lost. And that's why you keep drifting from one thing to the next. It's because you don't know what and you don't know how to commit yourself to something. And it makes sense, because you're so young and you're so ambitious and you know how much potential you have. You're smart, you're capable, and you don't want to waste yourself on something that puts you lower than where you could actually be. That's why you're shooting for investment banking or consulting, or trying to be a software engineer at Tesla, or trying to go to med school, or trying to work in private equity. All these prestigious, very noble, high status paths. And that's just how we're programmed in this corporate, industrial, capitalist society called America. And all these paths are fantastic, but I feel like the escapism, what it comes from, is just this fear, am I really, should I really put myself here? Because deep down, you don't belong there. That you could do stuff that's way, way better suited to you, and that's way higher up, in terms of position, in terms of level in society, in terms of, the intelligence required, which you have. And so you don't want to put your intelligence, you don't want to put your capability and all your talent towards something that's minuscule and meaningless, right? And that's why you keep drifting, because you're afraid that it's not the one. That's why you're not committing. And it's funny, I watched this ad on this was I think almost 2 weeks ago, or a week and a half ago. And this was as I was falling asleep, because I watched YouTube before I fall asleep. I used to in the past, but not as much, not right now. But anyways, the ad was saying you're a smart, ambitious, overthinking young man, and you're not committing to anything, and you're constantly chasing, yet you never achieve. And you feel like when you rest, you lose. Resting is losing to you. And it hits such a chord within me deep down, I can't explain it. And it said you're afraid of your own success. And the whole gist of it was do cognitive behavioral therapy, and you can uncover this true potential inside you and finally commit to something, and stop overthinking and stop over intellectualizing your path. And by over intellectualizing, what you're doing is you're actually subconsciously avoiding the thing, because you're intellectualizing into abstraction, and that's making you be okay, if I just keep thinking about it, then I can basically determine that it's not the right path for me. But you're doing that subconsciously, that without you even knowing. So you're subconsciously going into that cycle of overanalyzing the thing, the path, software engineering or product management or med school or whatever, or working at this certain company, or content creation or entrepreneurship or AI startup or whatever it is, right? And you're thinking about that, overthinking, going into that cycle, and you're okay, if I just think about it enough, then if I just overanalyze it and if I strategize, then I can determine whether it's good or bad. But that's the trap. That whole process is you avoiding it. That whole process is actually what you want to avoid. You want to just do it and not be afraid of failure, because that's the other thing. What we are basically the whole gist of what I'm saying is as an ambitious young person in your early 20s, you need to just commit to something. Stop avoiding things because you're afraid of failure. Stop avoiding things because you're afraid of your own success. And remember, resting, taking a break it's not losing. What is losing is drifting and not committing to anything. And lower the expectations on yourself. Just avoid the trap of over-analyzing a certain path, like private equity or law school or whatever, starting a certain business or entrepreneurial thing. And just pick one thing, try it the hardest you can, and do it. And just, it doesn't have to be glamorous. It could be corporate sales. It could be, being a financial analyst. It could be being a business analyst. It doesn't have to be at Intuit or Tesla or Capital One. You want that high position so badly right now, and I know you. I know where you're coming from. I'm this way too, and you want that Stanford. You want that, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, all these brand names, all of the lustful names in this corporate society, and you want all of that, but you're not going to get it until you just actually face yourself for once Just face yourself and be like, okay, what am I made of? Can I actually do this? You know? So just pick a path. Don't fall into the subconscious cycle of over-intellectualizing it into abstraction so that you end up avoiding it. Because that's what you're doing. Everything you're doing is avoidance. You don't want to commit. Just commit and see what it's like. You know, and you're not going to waste your potential, trust me. You know, even though it's not glamorous, investment banking, software engineering, Tesla, Yahoo, Google, JP Morgan, it's still something. You have to commit because you can't have the world all at once. You know, that's the problem about being in your early 20s. And that's what I'm circling back constantly here. Like, I don't have a proper title for this, but my rambling, what it is, it's basically how do I find meaning as an ambitious young person in my early 20s? And that's what you're trying to figure out. That's what you're trying to get after, that meaning, you know, like you just have to pick a path, try yourself in it, see what it's like, and you'll gather the data. You're not going to waste your life. You're not going to waste your time. Yeah, I mean, we don't know anything. I'm 22. I'm assuming you're around that age. We don't know anything. So just pick something, see what it's like, and if not, you can pivot. You know, I'm assuming you're, you know, in college or you recently graduated, or even, you know, like you're like getting an associate's degree or whatnot. You know, it sucks because, like, you know that you have so much and that you can offer so much to the world, yet, you know, like, you keep sabotaging yourself because you're afraid of yourself. You're afraid of your own power. And you're afraid of all the things, like, you can be so many things, actually, that picking one of those things feels like it's suppressing your identity. And that's why it's so hard for you to pick one path. Like for me, for example, I'm into guitar, I'm into classical Indian philosophy, I'm into blues, you know, I'm into like cultural, social analysis like Malcolm Gladwell, Scott Galloway. I'm into psychology, Carl Jung. I'm into symbol stuff like Carl Jung. I'm into art, I'm into Renaissance art. I'm into business, I'm into finance, I'm into investing. I have some interest in private equity, you know, but again, that interest is mainly because it's, oh yeah, it's the glamorous, corporate, lustful title that I can attach myself towards that will make me feel whole and will make me feel like I've become something. But you just have to pick any path, and it could be very unglamorous too. You know, it could be corporate sales, it could be like business development or whatever, you know, it doesn't have to be a nice company. You just have to start somewhere, go for it, because you want to go from 0 to 100 immediately. You want it all at once, you know. That's what someone told me. Like, the problem with being at your age, at 22, 20, is that you want everything right now. And it doesn't work like that. You can't rule the world right now. It'll take time, my friend. It's going to take a long time. You have to rule yourself first. That's what I was thinking today. Instead of trying to conquer the world first conquer yourself. Conquer yourself. What is this mountain of you? And figure that out. All the things that happen unconsciously, all your behavioral patterns, like avoiding things, you know, being afraid of who you are, being afraid of your potential, of the person you are to become. And, you know, again, those aren't stuff that all of us have unconsciously, but I kind of have that kind of stuff. But figure out those things you have unconsciously. What cycles do you constantly repeat in your life? You know, is it the over-intellectualizing things so that you can, you know, avoid them unknowingly? Do you, you know, put yourself in a position where you're constantly helping people because you want their validation? Or, you know, are you like a people pleaser? Are you someone who is, you know, are you just someone who's like putting themselves in a position where you're repeating a certain cycle? You know, figure like what is the longer cycle of your life actually? You know, like you get into a relationship, you have high expectations, they don't work out. Get out of the relationship, you feel bad about yourself, you haven't paid it yourself, or whatever, and you feel like there's no one good for you, or whatever. Like, that's a cycle, and that's, again, relationships, not career, not purpose. So yeah, I think everything I said today was like, I think it can be summed up in like, you need to, as an ambitious young person in your 20s, you need to find a path, not just to commit to something, but to gather data on things. What excites you? What drives your curiosity? That's super important. Figure out what drives your curiosity. and stop sabotaging yourself through putting yourself in these cycles of, okay, if I just analyze this enough, and if I go deep into this enough, and if I figure out where I could go wrong, if I don't get this job, if I don't get into this industry, how can I excel in this industry? How can I move up the corporate ladder? If I analyze all these components of this one path, like private equity or software engineering or product management, then I'll finally be able to know it, and then I can not do it if it doesn't work out. No. The over-intellectualizing and all that over-analysis, that's actually the thing you want to avoid. Because you just have to do it, you just have to take the step of networking, of cold emailing the recruiter, of cold emailing the head of the product management team or head of the banking team or whatever. Take the step of starting the business, of doing the YouTube channel or TikTok page. Take the actual step, take the action of doing it, and then after repeated failure, after repeated attempts where you actually try, you put in a genuine effort with research behind it, with how to execute that effort behind it, only until you do that can you infer if it's worth it or not. You can't just over-intellectualize. Stop falling into that cycle. Just pick a path, commit, and just do something. Just do something and follow it. And that way you'll gather data. And you're young. You have a lot of time. Remember, you can't conquer the world first. You can only conquer yourself first. So, figure out the broader cycles that your life is going through, that your life goes through. And they could be relational, they could be career, they could be about how you think about yourself, it could be with groups of people that you interact with, your family. It could be, the cycle of drifting and not committing to anything because, you're afraid. Figure out the cycle.